Alright everybody, welcome to a new episode of Ramzastro. This is something a bit different. Apologies if my voice sounds a bit rough. I'm getting over a really bad cold. I've had a terrible sore throat for a few days, but I didn't want to hold off filming any longer because I wanted this video to come out last week from the day of filming. So it's going to be a few weeks late from what I wanted it to be. So this a wee bit of a backstory. When the original pandemic C virus first came about back in 2020, everybody was stuck in their homes. I was one of them. I was your lockdown champ. I was stuck in the house for quite a while, and my mate Drew, me and him had been keeping in contact via WhatsApp, and we were talking about things to keep us busy, and he's mentioned that he was thinking of getting back into Warhammer, like just for the building and painting side to keep himself busy, and once everything's settled down we can maybe start playing Warhammer. And I thought that's a good idea. Found out what army he's collecting. I'm almost certain it's Raven Guard. I can never remember. If it's wrong, Drew, I do apologise. So I had a look at the upcoming armies. Back in the day, I used to have a Tyrannid army, but unfortunately that bad boy was lost in a garage fire, so that was about 15, 17 years ago. Not played Warhammer since. So I had a look, and I remember I always quite liked the Necrons, because it reminded me of Terminators. They had cool weapons. Back then, they had little strips of like neon plastic that you would attach to their weapons, which looked cool. We don't have that anymore, so I thought, you know what, I'll choose Necrons. A new Necron Codex is literally coming out in a couple of months at this point. I'll start collecting the Necrons. So I managed to get an army on eBay for like really cheap, unbuilt. Someone had bought a big Indominus set and basically split it up to sell into pieces, and I got the Necron side of that set unbuilt, built that bad boy, painted it. That was like 2 years ago, and since then I've been slowly and steady adding the little pieces to my army bit by bit. Most recently I got the patrol bot, or the combat patrol Necron box, and added that to my army. So I thought I'm not the best painter, I'm quite a amateur painter, and I thought I'm quite happy with how these have all turned out. Let's do a video showcasing them, and whenever I get new pieces to add to the army and they're all painted up, I might do little mini update videos. So without further ado, let's have a look and start off by looking at we'll try and start at the most minuscule parts of my army and work our way up to the bigger, cooler pieces. So let's have a look at the first one. And these are my CANOPTEK SCARAB swarms. CANOPTEK SCARAB swarms. I don't actually know how to pronounce it because there's a P right before the T. Did you pronounce the P? Did you pronounce the T? I do not know. But these are the smallest little things. They're basically little bugs that run about on the battlefield. They look like nothing, but they are great little. They delay the enemy quite a bit. They're great little things. Let me just read what it says here on the side. CANOPTEK SCARAB. Let me start that again. CANOPTEK SCARABs attack in skimming swarms. They descend upon the enemy with high-pitched chitters before breaking infantry and tanks alike down to raw energy with their feeder mandibles. Often attacking as the first wave of a Necron assault, these mechanical insectoids spread fear and destruction. So yeah, as I said, they don't look like much, but they do pack quite a little bite. They are great. I've used them a couple of battles now, and they're not the best at attacking, but they do slow the enemy down a bit or delay them from getting to where they want to go. I've used these in a few battles now. Not every battle, but a couple of battles. So that's my CANOPTEK swarms. I've not done the best paint job on them. I'm quite happy with how the bases have turned out. They just get the basic metallic look with their green Necron glow and their big red glowing eye. That's what I've went with my colour scheme with my Necrons. So let's move up from bugs to the next part of my army. And here we have my basic Necron warriors. These are the part of my army that make up the most numbers. I've got 40 of these. Well, technically I've got 34 and 6 of them are painted different, but I'll get to that after. So these guys are armed mostly with Gauss Flares and Gauss Reapers, basically shotguns and slightly longer range rifles that shoot mad green energy. So As you can probably tell from the way I've painted these, I'm heavily inspired by the T-800s endoskeletons from the Terminator movies. That's what I wanted, and a little army of Terminators is one of the reasons I chose the Necrons. They look cool as hell. Also, they can resurrect. So yeah, a basic paint job, made them look like Terminators, gave their guns a little bit of a dry brush so that they've got a bit of a metallic look to them. The green pops, stands out quite a bit for the energy weapons. Get a bit of, it's a brassy colour I've used for some of the copper wiring and stuff. But let's read what it says about the Necron warriors. Necron warriors attack in rank upon shambling rank. Individually little more than mindless autonoma, they are relentless and deadly when commanded en masse. The warriors' metallic bodies can self-repair from even the most hideous damage, while their unceasing volleys of fire butcher the foe with mechanical efficiency. Alright, doesn't say much about them, but yeah, that's my Necron army. Oh, well, not my army, my Necron warriors. They look badass. So, yeah, so their eyes glow red, they've got their weapons are black with a bit of a metallic sheen to them, and clearly there's green energy there. So let's have a look at those special painted ones that I mentioned. Yeah, so this is the specially painted warriors I have. They're all painted in gold. So they are my kill team for when I'm playing kill team games with my mates. So they're just basic warriors, painted gold, nothing special about them. I've got a gold base, just so they're different from the main figures so that I know which ones I use for my kill team. The big guy in the middle is just an old Stormlord I converted into an Immortal, because at that point I didn't have any Immortals that I could shove in a kill team, and I couldn't justify buying a box of Immortals just for one to put in my kill team. There's one warrior missing. He'll be getting his own showcase in a second. So my kill team I call the SAVINI squad, and that is because of the warrior that is missing. He is not the leader, technically that big. This big dude's the leader, but that's just the title. The main leader is this guy coming up. His name is Madagascar SAVINI. This is Madagascar SAVINI. He's my favourite Necron figure that I've built as a warrior. As you can see, he's the same as the other ones. He's been painted gold, got a gold base with the gold and black base, gold and black armour, but he is not carrying his gun. He is his gun. He has a crotch gun. It is badass. Surprisingly, this figure is better than other Necrons despite having no better stats. Whenever I'm playing with this character, all my luck for the entire game seems to go into this man's defense rolls because he's practically unbeatable. He just won't die, and when he does die, it takes a lot to take him down. Now, the reason he is called Madagascar SAVINI is because whenever me and my friends played Risk back in the day, as the game went on, I got a little drunker because we always had a few whiskies while playing, and after a set amount of turns, I always seemed to give up on attempting world domination and tell myself, take Madagascar and defend it. Madagascar is a fortress. No matter how many times this tactic failed, I did it every single game, and I probably will till the day I die. So I thought I'd name this man Madagascar, but he needed a second name, so I went with SAVINI after Tom Savini, because in Dusk Till Dawn, or from Dusk Till Dawn movie, he's got a little crotch shotgun. So this is Madagascar SAVINI. He's the star of the show. Let's play some music while he spins around. And that's enough of that, so let's move on to the next part of my army. And we'll move on to this little guy. Now, I'm going to be honest, if it wasn't for the codex sitting in front of me right now, I could not tell you what this thing's name is, what it was called, because it came with that original lot that I bought on eBay, built it, painted it, and I've never used it. Although looking at this thing, it looks like it could be useful, it could be crap, I've just never used it. It is called a CANOPTEK PLASMACYTE? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'll put it on the screen right now. How is that pronounced? I have got no idea, but let's see what the book has to say about them. CANOPTEK PLASMACYTEs use their monomolecular proboscis to inject infectious sentient energy into deranged members of the destroyer cults. This hateful substance, as dangerous as it is powerful, heightens their nihilistic insanity and drives their mindless annihilation to new heights. So it sounds like it is a steroid pusher. the steroid will either kill them or push them to do mad things. So yeah, basic paint job once again, silver, as are like Terminators. You can see the glowing orb generator in the centre, little red eye at the front. He's standing on the ruins of what looks like part of an old cathedral or building. Yeah, it's a cool little model. I enjoyed building it and painting it, just never used it. So let's move on to the next thing. So this is my PLASMANCER. So like the last thing that I showed off, I've built him, enjoyed building him, enjoyed painting him. I'm extremely proud of how the green on his staff has turned out. It looks awesome, but I've never actually used him in any battle whatsoever. So let's see what the book has to say about the PLASMANCER. PLASMANCERs are unsubtle annihilators. They are capable of wielding energy as a weapon itself rather than needing to bind it to other forms. Arcs of unstable lightning leap from their forms to rack nearby foes, and with a gesture these CRYPTOTEKs can channel those same energies into searing ranged blasts. So he actually sounds not bad as a fighter. I don't know why I've just never used him. He doesn't look like much, if I'm honest. He does not look like much. Let's have another look at that green on his staff. It just looks awesome. Yes, that is him. So let's move on to the next part of my army. And this is my Royal Warden. He is badass. He's got the regular Terminator looking paint, but he's also got these big chains, or don't chainmail, but I've painted them gold so he stands out a bit. Since his name's a Royal Warden, he needs a bit of gold in there. You can see I've got the green cable going into his gun along with some bronze one. He's got that big, it is a Relic Gauss blaster. It is pretty decent gun because the range on it is badass. He's standing on a bunch of rubble. There's a skull in there as well. I've used him in a battle maybe once or twice, I cannot remember. He's never lasted long because he's always an easy target because that guy is formidable, so they target him first. So let's see what they say about the Royal Warden. Royal Wardens ensure their lord's will is carried out by the dynasty's vast armies. They possess the initiative to adapt the strategies of the phalanxes under their command with engrammatic logic. While they retain independence of thought, protocols buried deep within their living metal cortices render them unquestionably loyal. Ah man, there's so many words in here that I am struggling to read / pronounce. I do apologise. I do have an education. Do not let that hinder you. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm actually quite happy with how this guy's paint job's turned out. It's not the best, but I do like it. Let's move on to the next part of my army. So these are my CRYPTOTHRALLS. I've actually never used these, and I think I've used them maybe in one battle when I've just put my entire army in. When me and my mate Drew didn't have like a full 1,000 points yet, but we just chucked everything we had in. Didn't last long if I remember correctly. But I'm quite happy with how the paint job in these bad boys turned out. They've got the basic silver again, but you've got bits of green coming through their little slats in their vents, and the green on their, what are they called, scythed limbs. I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. They look like I've got a bit of a glow to them thanks to some Tesseract glow that I've been using. They've got that bigger red eye at the front as well. So let's see what the book has to say about the CRYPTOTHRALLS. Some CRYPTEKs are accompanied by bound CRYPTOTHRALLS that act as slaves and bodyguards. These hunched and sinister beings are not truly sentient, but are rather construct creatures enslaved to the CRYPTEK's will and engrammatically compelled to protect their master with their living metal bodies and fierce short-ranged weaponry. So I'm assuming if I've got, say, the Royal Warden on there, I chuck these two as his bodyguard, which is probably what I should have been doing in the first place. But yeah, they look cool. I'm really happy with how the paint job has turned out. Some of the gravel's falling off there. But yeah, I'm happy with these turned out. I hope you enjoy this paint job as much as I do. It's a very basic paint job. You can kind of see the power source under the arms where the green is coming through the slats in the vents. But yeah, I'm happy with these bad boys. Let's move on to the next one. These are my flayed ones. They look badass as hell. These are the newest addition to my army. I bought these a couple of days after I got that combat patrol box I mentioned. I loved painting these guys. They're very creative. But before I describe how I've painted them, let's see what the book has to say. Flayed ones' keen, shrill, hunting cries as they fall upon the foe, talons flashing, infected with the gruesome flare virus. The flayed ones attempt to gorge themselves upon the flesh and blood of their butchered foes, gore drizzling through their mechanical forms as they seek to slake a thirst they can never quench. So yeah, these guys just want to eat flesh, despite the fact that they don't have digestive systems. They want to cover themselves in flesh. They don't know why, but they just need to do it because of that virus. So I've got 3 painted as if they're covered in human flesh, lots of blood on them. But because a couple of my friends' armies have orc based, I thought I'd do a couple in orc skin. One of them has an orc skull at his feet, covered in blood as if it's a fresh kill. So let's have a quick look at some of these. So yeah, the one with the orc skull, yeah, he's covered in the flesh. You can see he's covered in blood, and that skull just looks great. There's blood all over the gravel. Fantastic. This one just has human skin on him, lots of blood. His face is mostly covered with flesh. He's got an arm dangling down. No idea why you needed the arm, but he took the arm. This other one's covered in orc flesh, bit of blood, no skull at his base. Yeah, so these are just some really badass figures. I loved painting them. I loved everything about these guys. Cannot wait to actually use these. I've not used them in a battle yet because I've not had a battle since I got them. Let's move on to the next part of my army. And these are my Immortals. They came in the combat patrol box. You're only supposed to build 5 Immortals and 5, I can't remember what the name of the other ones were, but I didn't want to build them, so I used their pieces to build a total of 10 Immortals. I've armed them all with Gauss blasters, basically big badass shotguns. They've all got the same paint job. Let me just see if I can get the focus. And there we go, get a better look at them. So let's see what the book has to say about Immortals. Once the shook troops of the Necron tier, Immortals still provide their masters with a powerful core of skilled soldiery millennia later. More advanced than Necron warriors, they can employ a number of strategies even without command, and their firepower makes them deadly in close or mid-range engagements. So yeah, so I'm quite looking forward to using my Immortals. Like the flayed ones, I have not used these yet because I've not had a battle since buying and building them. But yeah, I do like my Immortals. I enjoyed building them. They just look threatening as hell. They're basically just slightly bigger warriors with bigger guns. So I'm looking forward to see them in action. So let's have a look at another piece of my army. And these are my SKORPEKH destroyers. I'm not sure if I've pronounced that correctly because there is an H at the end. SKORPEKH, possibly. These guys are just badass. I love them. They've no ranged attacks, they're purely melee, they get up in your grill and they cut you to ribbons. I've used these in every non-kill team match I've ever had, and I'm going to say 8 out of 10 times I have used them incorrectly, because they usually get killed before they even see any blood on their blades. But those 2 out of 10 times that it has worked in my favour, they have devastated the enemy that they get up and close with, especially the one that is wielding the hyperphase reap blades. The one that is holding just one blade, he is an absolute beast. There he is there, look at him, he just doesn't take prisoners. The other 2 are basically just his bitches, but they're all badass. Let's see what the book has to say about them. SKORPEKH destroyers favour overwhelming close-to-quarters violence to slaughter their victims. Though ungainly off the battlefield, in combat their tripod limbs allow them to pass through enemy lines in a madcap pirouette of slashing hyperphase blades that are impossible to evade or parry. So basically these guys just run through the enemy, don't stop to fight, they just keep moving, swinging their blades like absolute nut jobs. If you want to try and get a mental image, just think of Leatherface at the end of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre doing his little dance with the chainsaw. But these guys are great. I love the paint job I've done on them. Once again, that basic Terminator steel with the blades being in that nice Necron green glow. It makes them pop. Their weapons stand out. Their base is just that basic gravel. There's some skulls in there. There's some terrain. There's a couple of rocks. There's a bit of a girder. But yeah, these guys are just badass. I love using them, and I hope that they can take out some enemies for me in my next battle. Let's have a look at my next set. And these are my overlords. Technically they're all the same character, they're all just an overlord, but they're all different character models of them. The one that I use the most is the one standing. It doesn't have the one with the least amount of gold on him is the one I use the most. So this one coming up here, he's the one I use the most. He has a tachyon. He's a couple of arrows on him that you can only use once in battle, and I've only ever been successful in hitting an enemy with them once. It was glorious. It was in the last battle I had actually. It was worth it. I lost that game, but he managed to hit his arrow. Look at you badass. I've given them all slightly different paint jobs. This one you can see he's adorned in gold. His staff is pointed out, he's holding his resurrection orb, he's got a big gold cape. This guy's basically the same, he's got more gold on him, he's holding his staff, a lot of gold on him. This guy's not got as much gold on him. So I only use one of them. This one here is supposed to be with a vehicle, hence why I don't use them. This one here I got with a set. It was a combat patrol, never used them. So mainly use this one. He's the one I'll probably always use. I won't use these other two, but I built and painted them anyway. So let's see what the book says about Overlord, or Overlords. Overlords lead the Necron dynasties in battle. Their android minds are tremendously swift. Their bodies implacably resilient, and their weapons eldritch, ancient and lethal. Yet as the Overlord's indomitable wills that perhaps their most fearsome assets, for these they drive the entire armies to war. So yeah, these guys are actually pretty badass. They all have melee attacks. This guy, I don't think I've ever used him in melee, he's always killed before he gets a chance to. But I always try and use that arrow, because that arrow is just badass when it does hit. It is great. It took out an Eldar robot thingy in the last fight that I had against my mate Johnny. That's all I remember. I took out something with the arrow. Rest of the battle, I made terrible decisions. My teammate Drew was not happy with me, but I used that arrow successfully. That's all I care about. The arrow was successful. So let's have a look at the next part of my army. And this is my SKORPEKH Lord, or SKORPEKH. I'm not entirely sure how that's meant to be pronounced. This is part of the original bundle that I got on during lockdown. He was fantastic to build and paint. He's got this big clawed arm with pieces on it to make it look like it's a big glove. So obviously I had to paint it to look like a Freddy Krueger glove. So whenever I'm using him in battle, I always refer to him as Freddy. That's my Freddy character. I love him. He has got some decent weapons. He's got an Emetic Annihilator, which is a decent range. That's that gun he is wielding. He's got a fencing claw, the Freddy Krueger glove, and a hyperphase harvester, which I'm assuming is that big blade that is just passing by now, the big green blade. I've painted him like everything else in the Terminator steel. I gave that glove a bit of a bronze, rusted metal look with the big blades on it to make it look Freddy Krueger. You've got the green cables, black cables. He's standing on gravel, lots of broken pieces of terrain. He's got a bit of gold on him. He's got that bling. I thought I'd give him some bling because he's painted gold because the word Lord is in his name. So this guy's above other guys. He's a bit of a lord. He gets some bling. He's got a fancy necklace like a mayor. He's got a fancy necklace. He is badass in battle. That gun is pretty decent at range, but if he gets up at you, this guy will just shred you. And that's how I should use him. Most of the time I've usually got him standing back shooting, but from there on I'll probably have him charging in and shredding people. But let's see what the book has to say about him. SKORPEKH lords have fallen far from their noble beginnings, allowing an obsession with slaughter to twist their bodies and minds. Lurching forward on tripod bodies, their enigmatic annihilators blast victims messily apart as their claws and blades lash out to reap a crimson harvest across the battlefield. So basically these guys just want to see blood. They want to see everywhere, they want to see bodies. That is their job. So naming this guy Freddy Krueger seemed fitting. I love this character, I've always used him in battle if I can. Yeah, I'm happy with the paint job I've given him. Nice and basic, but it works out. I may put some more glow on the green so it pops out a bit more, but that's a future job. Let's move on to the next guy whose paint job I'm really happy with. Now this figure is ILLUMINOR SZERAS. I bought this figure 100% so that I could paint and build him because I love this sculpt. He's standing there, he is somehow siphoning out the blood from a victim that he is basically murdering on the battlefield. I just wanted to paint this figure and I'm happy with the paint job I gave him. I've got that guy there dying on the bottom, blood pouring everywhere, staining the gravel. It's fantastic. Giving this guy the Terminator Steel look as well. He's got some green glow coming from vents, he's got a big red eye, he's holding this big staff which I've made bronze and it's got the green glow on all the blades. He's got some cables and stuff coming out of him that is also glowing green. He's got a little bit of bling, This guy deserves some bling because he is slaughtering guys on the battlefield. Big piece of terrain that he's standing on with girders. It looks like it's part of a building that's fallen down. There's a couple of scarabs crawling on it. But I'm buzzing with how this paint job's turned out. This is probably my favourite paint job of all the figures I've done. I'm really happy with it. I could easily display this. But when you're looking at this, you could think that's a pure amateurish paint job. But for me, I'm really happy with how it's turned out. I'm not a professional painter, I'm not the best painter, but I'm really, really happy with this paint job. I didn't bother giving this guy down at the bottom any eyes. I thought since he's getting all the blood and stuff sucked out of him, his eyes have rolled back, so that saved me attempting to do pupils. Great wee tip there. So let's see what the book has to say about SZERAS. ILLUMINOR SZERAS is a ghoulish bioscientist who haunts the battlefield to gather luckless living specimens. He's a master of the technomatic lore and android augmentation, employing horrible arcanoscientific, I'm terrible at these words, I'm really sorry, arcanoscientific instruments to dissemble his enemies even as he fortifies the living metal forms of his allies. So for what I'm getting from that, he is basically taking bodies apart at the same time as keeping his teammates alive. This guy's multitasking like a boss. He's got a good gun. He's got a gun on him apparently. He's got Eldritch, the Lance can shoot. The Lance can shoot, it's got a good range on it, 36 inches. The Lance is also melee, and his legs, he uses his legs in battle to impale you, which he's doing to this poor unfortunate soul. So that is him. So I think that's all my individual warriors. So we've got one more. Then we'll move on to my vehicles. And this is my Catan Shard of the Nightbringer. I'll just refer to him as Nightbringer. I just really wanted this model ever since back in the day. I seen this figure, I thought that is cool as hell. Don't even know if he's good or not. I wanted him. Luckily enough, he is a badass. He is badass. He kind of reminds me of the Grim Reaper, flying above there, pale body, holding a big scythe, and he seems to be like gliding along piles of scarab swarms. So that's the way I've done the base with the swarms coming out, gravel lifting up behind them. So he is a badass on the battlefield. I think I've only used him in maybe 1-2 matches. I should maybe start putting him in some more matches, but he does use up a lot of points. So let's see what the book has to say about this bad boy. The very essence of life bleeds away when exposed to shards of the Catan, known as the Nightbringer. Gorod, he was the inevitable blade. The spectral form, cowl of shadows, and flashing scythe are said to have spawned countless avatars of death in the legends of primitive cultures the entire galaxy over. So, in lore, this guy could be the basis of the Grim Reaper, possibly. Which is awesome. I've not done the best paint job on him, his face, and I'd like to redo his skin, but it does look like it's just part of an old decayed corpse, which does work. He's kind of got the green glow coming out of his fingers, stretching down into his scythe and his robe. His robe looks like it's a bit dusty, it's seen a bit, it's old. I wanted to go for an old effect because this guy is old. And as I said about the base, just lots of gravel and those little scarab swarm things. Yes, I'm really happy with how this guy's turned out. What do you think of him? So let's move on to my vehicles. And this is my CANOPTEK Reanimator. Not specifically a vehicle, but I don't really class it as an individual unit, because look at it, it does kind of look like a vehicle, but I have painted him like a unit, as he is not necessarily a vehicle. He's got that Terminator steel. The only bits different are his wires, which are the coppery. You've got the glowing claws, he's got the cables, he's on some sort of terrain. There's bits of, I think it's broken dreadnought, there's a girder. Just a cool looking figure. I've never used this figure properly. I've only used it in a few battles, and every time I've used it, it's been a disaster. I've never used it properly. It's get destroyed quite quickly. If anything, it's just a distraction for the enemies. I really need to figure out how to use this thing properly. But let's see what the book has to say about this thing. CANOPTEK Reanimators prowl the Necron lines, shooting out ethereal beams swarming with nano-scarabs. Necrons touched by these EV lights stagger to their feet, resurrected, repaired and ready to fight again. Foes are less fortunate, wailing in agony as their atoms are torn apart and recombined in a hideous, gory fashion. So by the sounds of it, this thing puts broken and killed Necrons back together, but it pulls people apart by the atom. It's pretty badass. I just need to figure out how to properly use it, and it might be beneficial. There is a version of this that you can get that doesn't resurrect as a big cannon instead. I do plan on getting one of those, and if I do, I'll do a video on how it's turned out and painted. So let's move on to the actual vehicles. Now this is my Catacomb Command barge. As you can see, there's that Necron Lord that I had out earlier on. This is the vehicle he came with. He strides upon it. That has a gun underneath. He stands on. If he gets close enough, he can take a swing with his blade at you. It's not the best. I never used this particular setup. When I built this, I magnetised some pieces so that I can swap it out with a different vehicle. I'll speak about that in a moment, but let's see what the book has to say about this particular setup. Some Necron nobles ride to battle enthroned on Catacomb Command barges. These armoured skimmers beam out carrier waves that bear a noble's orders directly to the dynasty's legions, while also providing them with quantum shielding, heavy gauss firepower, and a fast-moving platform from which to fight. So yeah, actually doesn't sound too bad, this particular setup. Maybe I should give it a try, but I've never used this setup. As you can see with the vehicle, I've painted it black and given it a dry brush to make it look metallic. We've got the green glow coming through, the cracks and patterns. I wanted the vehicles to look like they're made from something different compared to the Necrons. I'm not going to talk about the Lord as we spoke about him earlier. There's a couple of drivers on here. I've painted them like regular Necrons, but they are connected with these gold seats, I'm going to call them seats, that plug into the back of their heads, and they've got little control panels. So let me just stop this here and I will take it apart and put up the combination that I usually use. And with that transformation, it has now become the Annihilation Barge. As you can see, it no longer has the Overlord on there, replaced with these two giant cannons, which are pretty much badass to hell. I love them. I've used this a couple of times. It has been quite devastating. It's taken out enemies but it gets taken out more than it takes out because of the way I use it. I'm an idiot. I'm not the smartest at Warhammer. I play for fun, not for winning. But let's see what the book has to say about the Annihilation Barge. Slow moving but deadly, annihilation barges serve as anti-infantry fire support platforms. They're often deployed to watch over important strategic locations, gliding serenely into position upon a cushion of repulsion energies before unleashing furious storms of eldritch lightning from their massive cannons. So these just shoot big badass bolts of lightning at their enemies and annihilate them. So there's nothing much different about the build. All I did was take out the overlord and shove in the cannon. You can change the gun underneath with another gun the same way, magnetised, but I didn't see the point in doing that because you don't really notice that gun. So yeah, that is this vehicle. This is primarily the way I've always used it. I've never used it in the other way, but maybe I should give that a shot. So let's have a look at my next vehicle. And these are my tomb blades. After my last battle, I realised I needed something that could cut across the battlefield a little quicker than all my other units. So that's another reason I got the combat patrol box, as these were included. I needed something speedy, and these are them. I've armed these bad boys with the twin Gauss blaster. They're piloted by regular Necrons. I've painted in the Terminator way. They're hooked up to these big orbs right in front of their eyes. The twin blades I've painted black with a bit of dry brushing with the metallicness just to make it look like they're made of metal. And you've got those guns sticking out the front, but the green energy just pops. I'm quite happy with the way I've painted these green energy. So let's see what the book says about twin blades. Twin blades are fast assault skimmers whose spiraling attack patterns are based on fractal hyperlogic. They are well armed, often afforded extra protection by the addition of darkness generating shadow looms or armoured shield vans, whatever that means. Others employ nebuloscopes to target the foe through even solid fortifications. So does that mean that they can shoot through walls? Yeah, so basically the target does not receive the benefits of cover against their attack. That is pretty cool, as whenever I'm in games, enemies are normally in cover. So yeah, I'm quite happy with how these models turned out. I had to glue their translucent bases onto regular bases so I could magnetise the bases for storage. But yeah, I'm happy with how they turned out. The green pops really well, figures look good, and the vehicles themselves look fantastic. So let's move on to my final two vehicles. And this is my Doom Scythe, the main reason I wanted that combat patrol box, because look at it, this is a beast. It flies, it's got a big huge cannon underneath which takes out its enemies without care. So this thing is a beast. As you can see, the base is mainly gravel. I put some glass translucent green rocks on there, make it a little bit more Necron-y. I've given it the basic black paint job with metallic dry brushing. There is a pilot in there that's painted as your basic Necron Terminator style, and it's got that big cannon. So let us see what the book has to say about the Doom Scythe. The Doom Scythe is a terror weapon whose wailing engines evoke atavistic horror in the luckless foe. These primary armament, the heavy death ray, is more frightening still for whoever its searing energy beam carves through the enemy's ranks. It leaves nothing but blasted wreckage in its wake. This thing, it just destroys things. In the last battle I had, this was one of my main... I actually never used this specific model. I used my friend's model because I didn't have this at the time, but it was devastating. But through his recommendations, I decided to see if I can get it off. There we go. Magnetise the main weapon so that I can convert it into a Night Scythe. So let's get this bad boy clipped up. There we go. It is now a Night Scythe. Look at that. So let us see what it says about the Night Scythe. Many Necron invasions begin with Night Scythes threatening through the world's void defences, potent aerial fighters in their own right. Night Scythes also employ invasion beams to generate captive wormholes through which invading infantry can march direct from distant Necron tomb worlds to begin their conquests anew. So basically that thing that I've clipped on is a portal generator, so it flies in, shoots a portal down, and a bunch of Necrons appear on the battlefield, which is awesome. The last match I had, my friend's one wasn't magnetised, I don't think, he just had this attached, which is probably how I'll mostly use it, but I will give that version a try. So I do have one last vehicle. This doesn't count as 2 vehicles, I count this as 1. So let's have a look at my final Necron vehicle. And this is my Treyarch Stalker. It's like a big spider robot straight out of Wild West, and I love it. It is badass. I have just realised I forgot to attach its guns underneath via magnets, but I'm not going to do that now because I cannot be bothered getting them out. So yeah, it does have a bunch of different weapons. I magnetised them. You know the drill by now. I can swap them out. So it's got these big ass legs at the front, actually are movable. I had to position them in this way so it stays on this rotating device. Painted it like the rest, black with some metallic sheen on it. It's probably my favourite vehicle paint job I've done. The metallic sheen on it just looks fantastic. Just look at the legs shine as they go by the light, look at that. Fantastic. The green on it pops so perfectly, it stands out. You've got the Necron in there painted normal with his Necron colours, his big gold chair and his little control pad. It's fantastic. I've used this in quite a few battles. It has been pretty decent. His guns do get there. I've never actually got anyone up close. I've never got up close with the thing because I'm pretty sure it does have a melee attack. I've never actually been able to use them, but hey ho, it doesn't really necessarily need to use melee. It is a big gun on legs basically, and I love it. I wouldn't mind getting another one of these. I wouldn't mind having a couple of these on the battlefield. It's great, but let's see what the book has to say. Treyarch Stalkers are agile combat walkers whose heavy firepower makes them excellent tank hunters and anti-infantry assault units both. As though quantum shielded and focused blasts of energy and flame were not enough, they can also augment the targeting of nearby Necron forces to further punish the foe. So yeah, these things have all sorts of abilities and I love it. But I just love the paint job on this bad boy. I hope you enjoy it. And that is my entire Necron army so far. I do plan on getting some extra bits and bobs. I might get another set of flayed ones to increase my flayed one squads. As I said, I may get another one of these. And there's a few individual troops that I have my eye on. Maybe some destroyers, maybe some wraiths, I'm not sure yet. But this army has taken me about 2 years to get to this point, so it's not going to happen anytime soon. I just kind of buy them when the urge takes me, which is every 6 months or so, 5-6 months. So since I've just got the combat patrol box and that, I won't be buying any more for a little while, maybe not till August. But yeah, I'm really happy with these. I hope you've enjoyed having a look at my Necron army. I hope the paint jobs haven't been too bad for you. Personally, I really enjoy my paint job, but I know they're not the best. But I'm really happy that they're better than I thought they were going to turn out. That's probably the main reason I love them. So, thanks for watching this video. I know it's different from what I usually do on the channel. If you're new to the channel and enjoyed this, please hit us a wee like and subscribe. Got all different types of videos on the channel. Computer game videos, toys, action figures, trading cards, blind bags, blind boxes, Funko Pops, you name it. I've probably done a video on it, and I've got all other videos coming soon. There is a big Ghostbusters section on the channel, check out that playlist. And if you're a vintage viewer, thanks for coming back. I hope you enjoyed this different style video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you'd like to see something similar, let me know in the comments. Hit us with a like, and as always, don't forget, have a good one.